to open up tonight. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, and thank you all for attending this evening. Tonight, we are very honoured to have three accredited speakers with us this evening to share their insights. We are recording this session, so please feel free to keep your video and audio on mute if you do not wish to be recorded. We will be distributing this recording over the District 70 YouTube channel. So if there are any people who have missed out at the last moment, that's okay. We would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on the various lands of which we're meeting tonight, and the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who are participating in this meeting. We pay our respects to elders both past, present and emerging, and recognise and celebrate the diversity of the Aboriginal peoples and their ongoing cultures and connections to our lands and waters. With that, I would like to introduce our panel moderator this evening, Danielle Thompson.
Thank you very much for the warm introduction. I would like to start with a riddle tonight. What do you get when you cross someone who walked 1,280 kilometers across Europe in honor of her parents, a former professional singer, someone who was told they would never amount to anything or would possibly end up in jail, who then worked hard in order to become a director of not only Happy Feet 1 and 2, the really adorable little penguins, but also a director of Mad Max. Someone who loves languages and loves to learn. We also have 3 self-published authors. Can you think what happens when people of those qualities walk into a Toastmasters International Convention? We have accredited speakers, and we are fortunate enough to have 3 of those speakers with us this evening. Now, Toastmasters, I know that you've heard this before, and I'm sorry to do that to you again. But at the risk of sounding like in-flight attendant, can I please ask that you have everything on mute, your tray in the upright position, and if you turn your cameras off, and we will start without any technical issues. If you do have any questions this evening, I would ask that you pop them into the chat. I know there are some limitations about who you can and can't speak with, but rest assured we will make sure that we have your questions answered. As you know, the topic for tonight is Pathways to Success, and that is to the Accredited Speaker Program. What I would like to do is to start by welcoming each of our panelists, and I would like them, if it's okay with you, to introduce yourself with your name and something I'm curious about. As a accredited speaker, when you either listen or you see people speaking, it doesn't matter, in a Toastmasters meeting on TV, what is your pet peeve or your irk when you either listen to or you watch people speak? And Greg, if I may start with you, please, since you're my cheekiest panel member.
My name's Greg Van Borsum. Most people call me GVB. Very few people call me by my name, especially in the film industry. If you said my name, nobody would know who I was. So we've always gone by initials. So that's how I normally travel. My pet peeve, I have many. So when it comes to speaking, but more so presenting, I mean, I spend most of my time educating people on how to do things better. And I'm a big believer that most people do horrendous PowerPoint presentations that are almost childish and overloaded with information, and not understanding the psychology and how the brain works. And the brain doesn't actually take in lots of data when someone's speaking. And so you spend your whole time shifting between the speaker versus the PowerPoint, and you get nothing. So you take nothing away. So, and I'm very big on themes, and everything should flow so it feels like a massage. And I get very let down by presentations, and I want to get up there and just drag the person off and show them how to do it better.
I think we've all heard the term death by PowerPoint. Thank you.
Sure.
Verity, would you mind going next, please?
So my name is Verity Price. I am a South African-based speaker, and I'm lucky enough to work all around the world. I've also walked across part of the world when I had time. Pet peeves. I think maybe more in the Toastmasters context is that there's this confusion that people have between body language and sign language. And I just see so many talented speakers trying so hard, not realizing that they're not actually speaking anymore. They're now trying to do a performance and they're disconnecting from their audience. And just that we just don't seem to trust that our body will speak with us, and we don't need to now do, I wanted to turn back time because I was sad. It kills me. And so if I can help save people from confusing body language with sign language, I'll be a very happy woman.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And I'll keep that in mind tonight. Thank you. Dale, may I ask you to go next, please?
Sure. I'm Dale Ruth-Bevan, a Sydney-based trainer and speaker focusing on topics generally to do with communication. I think I tend to be a very tolerant listener. I come from a position of generally what's working and encouragement. That being said, I did find myself watching a TED Talk the other day, and the woman was pacing back and forth and back and forth. And halfway through, I thought, I'm getting seasick just watching this. And I switched it off. It was so distracting. I actually couldn't focus on the message because of this constant movement. So I think it's unfortunate that whoever ran that event didn't get her to center herself and be a little bit more present when she delivered her talk. But yeah, pacing tigers are probably the closest that will get to annoying me.
Right. Okay. Well, thankfully, GVB, no PowerPoint presentation for me tonight. Verity, I will stay within my area. And Dale, I am on a chair that does have wheels, but I won't move around. It's interesting. From my home club, there is a lovely man, and he often says that he's guilty of doing line dancing as he's walking around the stage, and that just reminded me of that. If it's okay with the panel, what I would like to do is just to speak a little bit about the Accredited Speaker Program. I'm mindful that we have a range of Toastmasters here tonight who may not know a lot about it, and you'll have to forgive my ignorance. When I started Toastmasters, and I'm only 4 years in, but I spent so much time trying to understand pathways and DTM and all these other acronyms that when I heard about the Accredited Speaker Program, I thought, okay, that sounds fantastic. Right now, I want to get through table topics without not feeling ill. And I used to call them table terrors. That's how much I love table topics. So I didn't know a lot about the Accredited Speaker Program. We can all Google what that is. But could you please tell me in your own words, what is the Accredited Speaker Program? Verity, would you mind going first?
I can go as long as you are not hearing the storm that is busy raining down around me. Can you hear me fine? Good. Okay. It's canceling out background noise. That's fabulous. So for me, I think maybe to clear up the confusion that does seem to exist in Toastmasters, the Accredited Speakers Program is not part of the Toastmasters journey. It's not another tick, like once I've done my DTM, let me become an accredited speaker. It's specifically to celebrate people who make money from speaking, presenting, training, facilitating. And so you only apply for this once you are established in your career as a speaker and a presenter. And then it's a wonderful thumbs up and acknowledgement of your subject matter that you are an expert on. So that's in a nutshell, how I would describe it. It's not just another thing to do as part of your Toastmasters program. And I think there's a disconnect there, and people seem to think it's just another program to finish. It really is an acknowledgement of professional speakers and trainers.
Thank you very much, Verity. Dale, would you mind answering next?
Sure. I think Verity summed it up extremely well. I think for me, it's a program that enables Toastmasters to say, we acknowledge that people earn a living through speaking. As Toastmasters, we endorse the standard. They meet what we understand to be a good professional standard of speaking, and that's what we would be encouraging people to aspire to if they consider themselves professional speakers. That's very disconcerting when there's no one else in the house and the doors close.
That is, maybe there's someone in the house who have some energy that has a, a different opinion to that too, maybe, Dale?
No, I'm pretty sure I'm alone, but there you go. Yeah, so it's an endorsement, it's a recognition, and it's a benchmark that's set and judged by other professional speakers. So the whole of the AS program is monitored and judged and run by other accredited speakers.
Thank you. Greg, is there anything that you would like to add to what Verity or Dale has just said?
I think it is a sideline to Toastmasters, but in its own way, it's part of it because it allows you to take. See, I had a very single-minded plan coming into Toastmasters, and that was to help people. And so I made a pact with myself that every speech I gave would never be thrown away. So every single speech I gave had a through line that tied into the same through line, so I could actually utilize them all and build a keynote if I needed to. And I could draw upon all of my stories to do that, which were life-changing stories. And I think what it allows you to do is take your short 7-minute stories and you can build them into a long form, which allows you to put together keynotes. And if you can make those keynotes viable to business and underline, and pieces that help businesses and also people in general move forward into a different area, and you can affect the bottom line of a business well, then you can build a career out of that. And it doesn't mean you have to have an established career going in, because you're building that on the way. So part of the journey is getting those speeches, ticked off at companies. So you're building your repertoire, and you're moving through these companies and building more and more sort of at the same time, not just your skill set, but you're building your confidence and all these other things. So you're taking all these short form 7-minute stories you learn in Toastmasters, and you're giving them a long form storytelling platform to do it on. And by going through the accredited speakers process, it to me allows you to get on stage in front of a decent sized crowd, because some people do come from countries that don't have large crowds. I mean, Australia isn't a country that's known for loving public speakers. Between us and the English, and the Scottish, you're going to have a hard time. So when I go stateside, like I did my whole accredited speakers process in the US because I knew that's where I could do it. I did 22 cities in 2 weeks, and I spoke to like 8,000 to 10,000 people in every speech I gave, and it was massive. All the big Marine Corps, and had I not been able to do that, it would have been difficult to do it in the time frame I wanted to do it in. So it allows you to get yourself out there, build your skill set more, long form your speeches, your process, get the skill in front of a crowd, and then present in front of a judging panel that will put you through at a high pass mark, which then establishes you in some way, shape, or form with a credential that you can have at the end of your name, which then helps you more in the industry. That's what I think.
Thank you. What I am curious about is I just heard a lot of what I will call very professional terms. You were speaking about a business and being recognized, and having a benchmark. And perhaps it's because I'm not a professional speaker, and I'm still very new in my Toastmasters journey. And I was having a bit of a chuckle with the panel members earlier that I felt like somewhat of a stalker, because apart from Dale, I hadn't met any of you before, and I had done some research and I had listened to your speeches, and GVB, I have listened to some of your podcasts that you have on YouTube. So I feel like I have a different perspective about you being an accredited speaker, because I have listened to your speeches and hear you talk about passion. And Dale, with your presentation, you're talking about the con in confidence, and learning about how I won't try and be Rupert Murdoch's niece and try and go in to meet someone. So it's okay. There's the legal statement there. And with Verity, we learned about your sister and how you were trying to have a record without getting $40,000 in debt. And Greg, your speech about suicide and coming in and talking about reading what your aunt broke down before she closed her eyes forever. To me, I mean, I understand that this is a business for you, but to me, this is a skill of people who can tell their stories and impact people in such a vulnerable, open way. And you're also recorded and you're for everyone to see. So I'm curious now, with what I just said, if you can think with that in your mind, how do you think the accredited speaker program has helped you not push or help the world with your passion and whatever your catalyst is to drive change? So how has the accredited speaker program allowed you to take your passion, or probably not allowed, but given the opportunity to help people on a larger platform?
Well, I'll jump in very quickly if that's okay.
Of
I
course.
don't speak on mental health for money. I never have taken a single cent for that. I do that because I think it needs to happen. I speak on leadership and business management and all these other aspects, but I always tie in a piece of mental health in every presentation I do. Every speech I've ever given on mental health has been totally free of charge, even to the point sometimes I've paid quite a few $1,000s to fly places to speak, because I don't like speaking on mental health because I wish the troubles didn't exist. But until it changes, until we can put a massive dent in this and actually help people, then it's something I'll always speak on as well, because it needs to change. Now, the accredited speakers process, now, the way it worked was just by chance. When I did that speech in 2019, I thought I'd done something wrong at the end because a lot of people left the auditorium very quickly. And then as I got off the stage, this massive queue of people formed, and there were people that had taken the steps we'd given them and gone out to call people in their family and friends that were suffering. They've finally realized the signs. And to have directly been involved in the saving of probably nearly 60 or 70 lives myself, it's an amazing feeling. And just by having that chance to speak on stage at the Accredited Speakers Day, that I feel helped save many, many lives. And so for me, and I said to my wife, even if I didn't get the accreditation, it was worth the trip because I've helped people. And that to me was one of the biggest steps. The AS after the name helps you get gigs in the workplace because it shows you're at a higher level. And to me, that lets you in the door more. And like, I've got a whole lot of background, so people want to know what I do and how I do it. So it's kind of different. So I've never relied on the accredited speakers process that much as far as the AS, but it's always nice to have after your name because it does show that little bit of polish that you've gotten.
Wow.
Thank you. And thank you for being so open about that. I really do appreciate that. Thank you very much. I have to say, when I did listen to your speech, there was a little bit of a tear in my eye, and just the risk of sounding cheesy, feeling really proud that there are people in an organization that I'm part of and do what they do to help and support other people. So thank you for that.
Pleasure.
Verity.
For me, it was an interesting experience getting the accredited speaker after winning the World Championships, because there's like a totally different weighting in terms of Toastmasters with which each one of them meant. So I can't tell you if it's had an impact in my professional career, because I'd already had the title of world champion, which had done a lot of, like, so much of the work for me. And so the honest truth of why I pursued it, and this is like a guilty truth, but I'm going to share it with you, was I felt shortchanged winning the world championships in my bedroom with no audience for 7 months. I spoke to my own reflection for 7 months. It was a very surreal, extraordinary experience. And honestly, I was probably only ever going to win in those circumstances because I had a baby. I wouldn't have been running around to contests. But when I realized I qualified for the accredited speaker and I could go to convention and be with Toastmasters and be with an audience, that's why I pursued it. Very selfishly, I just wanted them to know that I didn't live in a box on Zoom.
Verity,
And I want
having a baby and winning a world championships.
it was a busy time. No, yeah, he was a year old and coming in while I was rehearsing, and there was a lot going on. So I wanted to share with Toastmasters what I do in my professional career and my professional life, which is talking about how we change our thinking to change our results. And I selfishly just wanted to have a live audience. And I was so grateful. I got to meet Dale and Stephanie, and we got to do it together. But I was there for the people. I was there to be with Toastmasters and not just a chat box. And that was the life-changing part of it for me, because quite honestly, the majority of the work I do now, people are just asking me, come into our company, teach us how to speak. That's the main work I do now. The thinking differently is tiny. Most of it's around communication.
Okay, if it's okay if I just jump in there before you speak, Dale. I've actually been able to purchase Dale's book, and I promise this is not a plug-in, that will come later. But I remember reading Dale's book, and we're talking about the different stages of public speaking, started being terrified and it moving on to the exhilaration. And I remember reading Dale's book, and it was talking about how you were thinking that you were just staying in the confident stage and how you had to change something. And I remember reading that, and as someone who has spent several years really struggling with going from being Casper to lobster when I speak because I get embarrassed, I couldn't imagine how I'd want to be in front of people. And I wasn't sure how you could feel exhilarated. But Verity, I think you just really spoke about that because you wanted to be in front of people. So if it's okay if I shift gears, and if it's not using Dale's term, the exhilaration, what is it that you feel after you have given a speech, and how do you know that you're at that exhilaration and that you are giving that energy to your audience?
You're asking me or
Sure.
any of us?
We can
No,
go.
that's why I was just trying to check. No, because I'm happy for anyone to
I thought it was Dale's question.
I wasn't sure. Who's the question for?
It's for you, Verity.
It is.
Is it for me?
It is.
I feel that exhilaration, I call it flow, and it doesn't always happen. It doesn't happen in every speech. To be honest, in the accredited speakers experience, I didn't experience flow there. It was just my preparation. They hadn't filled the room. So I had 3 empty rows of seats before there was people, and I'm there for connection. And so the closer I am to my audience and the more I feel like there's a conversation and a sharing, that's when I feel one. I feel one with the people I'm in the room with. So it doesn't happen. It often happens at unexpected events, not the ones that I've put a lot of energy into thinking this is going to be the one. Sometimes it's small little sessions with a tiny team, and there's just this experience of connection and inspiration that flows. And that for me is exhilarating. And it's not something I can chase because I don't think it's guaranteed for every speech. I think sometimes it's in the room, you have done your preparation, you can still be a pro, but that experience of flow and exhilaration, that is a gift when it happens.
Can I jump in there and respond with what you're saying there, Verity, is so interesting. I was reading an autobiography by Julie Andrews, and she was talking about performances that she gives, and she said to her husband, this is live stage performances, and she says, some nights I feel like it's been executed brilliantly, but somehow not quite there. And then other nights it might not be perfect, but the audience has really responded. And he explained to her that it's when she feels conscious of what she's doing, it's almost like she's performing, but also looking at herself going, look how brilliantly I'm doing this. And that's where the disconnection happens. But when she's completely committed to the role and the audience, and everything is what you described, flow, everything's aligned, she called it threading the needle. When that all happens, that's when you're threading the needle. And I just thought that was such a beautifully, I haven't done it nearly as eloquently as Julie Andrews did it in her book, but it's well worth reading.
I love that.
I don't think anyone can be as eloquent as Julie Andrews, but Dale, I think you did a fantastic job of that, and I do really like that threading the needle. Greg, what's your perspective on what we just spoke about and the exhilaration, or whatever your word is?
So trapping lightning in a bottle is, for me, it happens nearly every time, I must say. And it's not because I always give a great, what I think is performance or any of that stuff at all. I don't do that. I changed my mindset many years ago, and I've always been very big on how to structure your mindset before you go into any event. And I've been lucky enough to be doing events my entire life and besides competition or whatever. And I changed I used to hype up backstage. You would have hated to see me. I'm like a heavyweight boxer backstage, like pumping up, ready to get out there and smash it out of the ballpark. And what I did a few years back was I went, you know, what am I here for? Because I found my presentations were getting too aggressive, too egotistical, too much. And I went, you know, I'm here to make the audience leave differently from when they came in. And my role is to teach. And so what do I have inside of me that I can give to the people? And I've never prepared a speech in my life. I just don't do it. I have so many stories I can draw upon. I walk out and look at an audience and see the demographic and go, you know what, they need to hear this. And it's not my story, it's theirs. It has to be handed to them. And so when I go out, it's always to give whatever. And I love the fact that I don't have a preconceived speech all the time, because I think that would get uninteresting for me. I'm not that kind of animal that would function well doing that. But if I get out there and I see certain people, I go, you know what, they need to hear this message, this story, and I will deliver that. And you'll see the change in the audience partway through. And when I see that transition point at different times, I know where they're at in their life, and I know exactly what I need to do next to do it. And I love that spontaneity, sort of in those moments where you get to do that are just amazing. And I just get the juice for me is seeing people change. And when you can transition an audience in such a way where people have to come and either talk to you afterwards or have to leave, or especially when I talk on mental health, because people have many times they've never spoken about the issues to anybody, and I'm the first person they tell. And I classify that as the baby being born moment, where they've finally released it and gone, you know what, I need to tell you this, and then you can actually help them get help. And there's so many of those moments happen, and don't ever try to be perfect. It won't happen. You get out there and you give of yourself. And when you get off stage, if you aren't absolutely RS and stuffed and have nothing left in the tank and have to go lie down on the couch for 2 days, you haven't performed well enough. Like you should have nothing left when you finish, and you should have given it all on that stage. And when you leave, you go, you know what, I'm done. And you collapse. And that to me is what we're there for. We're there to give everything of ourselves so people leave differently from when they came in. That's my belief.
I really love that. In verity to what you were saying earlier about when I asked about the pet peeve, and you say, you know, crying. Again, I'm not as an experienced Toastmaster as other people, but I feel like sometimes we try to force ourselves to be what our evaluations are. And so often we get told to use, you know, our stagecraft and, you know, be able to, you know, 1, 2, 3. And I feel like sometimes instead of really starting to play and experiment with our, you know, our natural energy and how we connect to the content and how we connect to the audience, we're trying to almost have a filter of there's going to be an evaluation after this, you know, and I want to make sure I do well, as opposed to, you know what, I'm ripping off this, I'm a Superman. Public speaking is my skill and I just want to play with that. So I think, Greg, to your point about what you were just saying about, you know, wanting to lie down. I mean, I'm not going to lie down after I've, you know, nailed a table topic. Let me get that clear. But being able to just go in and just show who you are through your public speaking, I think that is an amazing skill. And I hope that we really get to experiment with that a lot more.
And don't be afraid to put it out there. So many people are afraid that they hide stuff away. Just like, you know what? It doesn't matter. Put it on the table and see what happens. You know, you can't be afraid of that stuff. And too many people are. Like, I don't care what people think of me. I never have, because so many people are like that. And then they never reveal their true selves. You know, when you hear Dale and Verity speak, you hear this quality and this resonance, and then you hear this reality and you go, that's cool. Like, that's what makes them a great speaker. It's not because they are beautifully presenting. It's all, that's bits of it, that's for sure, but that's a sub stuff. It's not the real stuff. The real stuff comes from inside. And when you see people actually hammer that stuff home on stage, it's mind blowing. I love it. That's what makes me excited.
I had
Can I add on that? Sorry, you
Oh,
carry on.
no,
And
please go.
No, I just want to add because I just want to call you Greg. My husband's name's Greg, so that's why. That's
Obviously an
why
incredibly good looking bloke.
very good looking bloke.
But maybe just
He
call him
never gives me a
GDB.
moment trouble.
I bet he does.
TVB. He's GKT. I'm going to start calling him by his initials. So I think what Greg's saying, and that really resonates with me because I see it because I coach people. That's the majority of what Toastmasters want from me now is they're trying to win the world championships, and can I coach them? And especially now we're getting district winners hoping to get to semifinals. I get sent speeches that are perfect. There's not a thing wrong with them. The delivery is on point. And I have to go back to this person and saying, it's too polished. I don't know where you are. You are not here. This speech is on point, but I do not know you. There's no heart. And then my job is to actually take the shine off and make it real. And I think that for any speaker, having the confidence to just show up on stage, yes, be prepared, be professional, have all your stuff that you do well, but also you need to show up. And then the body language isn't going to be like a contest. I will never speak like I spoke for a contest again. It's a sport. And I didn't need a day to sleep, Greg. I needed about 3 months. I was broken. But it's to understand that contest speaking and actual speaking are very different, and you need to be there because your essence and what you give is what the audience takes home. They don't take home the polish. And so that's just something that came up for me.
I really agree with that. I had the privilege of listening to Dale speak at our District 70 conference, and to see and hear, I'm sorry, Dale, I don't mean to embarrass you, talking about something that's quite personal, and how Dale approached that with such grace, but just being very I don't know, it was almost like seeing there was just layers coming off, and she was just like, yes. So to see someone who can do what I just described, but still be very present and very real, that is a skill that I really, really admire. And thank you, Dale, for giving me the opportunity to listen to your speech. I really appreciated that. One thing I am curious about with the accredited speaker program is, in Verity, I know that you've already touched on this about why you did want to pursue it. Is there anyone that was, I don't know, perhaps sparked or started to, kindle that, this is something that you should really go towards? Or was it something that you just went, no, this is actually something that I want to do on my own? Dale?
Is that to me, Dale? Yeah, you just say a name and we will answer. Dale, we need to hear from Dale.
So I heard about the accredited speaker program quite a while back. I think it would have been about 2017. And if I had to put a name on a person who started pushing me towards the accredited speaker program, I would say it was probably Juliana Jamal, who first said, Dale, I think you can be our first. Of course, Greg put me to the post, but
First lady.
That's where gender's wonderful. Okay, fine then, I'll be the first woman. But yeah, I think that was when it was planted as a seed, and then I looked into the criteria, and I'm ashamed to say I just went, too hard. And it was only later when I started building up quite a consistent business that when I looked into the criteria again, and then I have to say it was Maria Pedavoli who invited me to join Keystone Speakers, which focuses on the accredited speaker program. And then looking into the criteria, it was a case of, you know what, I'm there. I just need to do the admin and sort it out and apply. So yeah, those were the catalysts for me.
Thank you, Dale. Greg, how about you?
My journey was an interesting one because, as Dale knows, we used to do a bit of competition together, and there was a few local friends of ours, and it was always good fun. However, I was never a really short form speaker because I have all these stories. And it was Wendy White that actually said, you should try and do the accredited speakers journey. And I didn't know much about it. Now, I've only been in Toastmasters since 2014. That's when I first started, and actually towards the end of 2014. And so I didn't have anything that would let me get it. So I did my ACB in 2 weeks. Let that sink in. So I went to every club in New South Wales, and within 2 weeks, I did my advanced communicator bronze. I finished it. I did a different speech at every club in 2 weeks to get that, to qualify me to be able to go for it. And then I went on a 22-city tour to the States. I spoke in Australia at a national convention, which then there were American speakers there who came and saw me and said, we need to take you to the States. I flew straight to America, did 22-city tour there in front of every crowd under the sun, and then came back and did a whole lot more here. And that got me my 25 very quickly. I think I had those done in about 5 weeks. And then I went for it. First year, of course, didn't get it because the video, which is always our letdown back here, I came back here to a national conference. They promised me the world and gave me an atlas. So they said they'd had this massive stage and had all these things to do and microphones. And I get there, there's a band set up on the stage. There's a lectern mic only, and I can't move. So I didn't get it that year because the video was no good. So next year I did my own camera setups with my own people, and we got through with that. And, you know, it was a interesting journey, but for me, it's, you know, what it's given me, I suppose, at the end of this, I mean, was to show me that you don't have to be a long-term speaker to get your accreditation. I mean, you just have to be driven. And I just want to make a side point, and I'm getting off track, but for me, the biggest thing I think Toastmasters do badly and can do better is people, I've seen people that have been members for 20 odd plus years and they're still the same. Like, never be a hack. And we see it in film all the time. Everyone's got a camera. Everyone thinks they're a director. It's like every time you make a film, try and make it better somehow. So whenever you do a speech, look at what you didn't do well, take the criticisms and move on and build upon it and make yourself better every single time you walk out. And that was always my aim, was to, every time I speak, was to improve something. And somewhere along the way, it all sort of meshes together and you turn a corner and it works. And I think all of those things mesh together, make you good. But you have to be willing to put the time in. I have a studio here at home. I sometimes do 4 hours of free speaking a night, just in the dark. And I always have the lights off. I visualize a crowd and I speak in the dark. I love that stuff. I just feel like I'm alive. So I know I've gone off on a tangent on different things, but for me, anyone can become an accredited speaker if they're driven enough. Anyone can become a Toastmasters world champion if they're driven enough. Because Verity, Dale, I've seen you all speak, brilliant speakers, but it doesn't come easy. You've got to have that drive and that passion and that belief in yourself to do it. And you've got to outwork everybody, and you've got to always try and better yourself. And any Toastmaster can do anything. I'm a backward knuckle dragging school kid that was meant to be a flunker who's gone and done lots of crazy stuff. So anyone can do this stuff. And I truly believe that if any Toastmaster out there puts their head into this, their heart into this, and digs into their stories, they can go wherever they want to go. And in no time whatsoever. It's all about the drive. I have no idea if I answered your question. Then I went off some weird tangent, but it's all good.
No, that's okay. But that's what your tangents and what you're passionate about. That's also why we're here, because we want to hear these things. I can't speak for all Toastmasters, but I know when I overhear someone say, oh, I've got a wedding coming up, or, you know, something happened at work and I'm really embarrassed, you know, I just don't know how to not be nervous in front of people. I almost feel like that's my bat signal. Like, that's my in the sky, hey, have you heard about something called Toastmasters? And that's, you know, that's the into start having those conversations. I'm just curious if this has ever happened for you when you have met someone or you've got to know them. I'm just wondering, what is it that you listen for or you feel when you're hearing them speak that make you activate your bat signal that, hey, I think this person should pursue this program? Dale.
I think when let me frame this as professional speaking is not just about being able to speak well. It's about having a message that is going to make a difference to people and change the way they think about something or the way that they do something. And to speak professionally, you've got to have a marketable product. You've got to have something that organizations are willing to pay for, that businesses are willing to pay for, or if you're going to be a public speaker, in other words, set up your own stage and get people in, you've got to have something to offer them. So I don't think it's about just, you know, some people are really funny at Toastmasters. maybe the comedy circuit would work for them. But you know, they still need that essence of expertise or a message. When someone comes with a story that you could see there are a lot of people that could benefit from understanding how they've overcome something, or how they've managed a challenge, or how they've developed a way of thinking, then that's when I prick up and I go, okay, that's something that the world needs to hear, or that businesses would really appreciate coming in. So yeah, those are my signals. I can't actually think of any examples straight off the bat. I know Maria Pedivoli is someone who I think has a lot to offer on a number of fronts. I think she would definitely have some good stories. People who have set up programs, people who have started, you know, regular coaching things, or community programs. I think they have interesting stories to share, and wisdom that can be multiplied out and replicated. So that would be something worth sharing. And I'm giving a very long-winded answer, but I hope there's something in there for you.
There definitely is. And I'm sure there's something in there for anyone in the audience who is considering going down the AS program path. So thank you. Verity.
I think I'm on par with Dale. I'm listening for, is there a golden thread in the story of who they are, what they do, what their subject matter expertise is? Do they share it in a way that is transformative for people? So maybe just a little bit of pushback on Greg. I agree the drive can take you far, but you have to have something worth handing over. And for a lot of people, they're not there yet. That bit, you know, that the confidence, the knowing how to frame their experience in a way that's valuable for other people to take it, that's the journey. I mean, that's what Toastmasters is hopefully helping people to do. And I love Greg's strategy of each speech, have a golden thread, use the program to build broader content, but it takes time. So I'm always, if I see someone's already out in the world doing something in some way that they could now make even better, then I light up. But I don't think it's a journey for everyone. This has to be your passion. You must go, this is actually what I want to do. I love doing this, and then pursue it with everything.
Okay, so if I've heard you properly, it's have your marketing material or whatever your program is, but also have that passion and that drive, and don't be too polished.
Yeah, no pressure. Sounds so easy.
It does. And plus, you know, win a world championship after you've recently become a mother. Like, that's amazing. I'm conscious of time, and I know that people will probably want to have questions, but people in the audience, if you haven't actually had a look at the judging ballot for the accredited speaker program, it's pretty brutal. I mean, first of all, 79 is a fail, 80 is your pass. But one of the things I was quite curious about is under the judging criteria, under speech value, it says the listeners should feel the speaker made a contribution to their thinking. The listeners should feel the speaker made a contribution to their thinking. And other Toastmasters out there, please pop in the chat if I'm wrong, but I can't remember seeing a judging ballot where you spoke about feeling. So I'm curious to the panel, and anyone can jump in that can answer this one. How do you design a speech? And please don't give us the, you look at your audience and you examine who they are. I want a bit more than that. How do you think about and craft something that listeners are going to feel what you were telling them?
Don't be fake. It's really simple. I mean, if you don't tell it from the heart space, and for sure you have to craft it if you're going to be telling a business presentation or some presentation to change people. But if you lose, and I think Verity mentioned it before, if you over polish and you lose that heart in there, you run the risk of losing the people. I mean, people I've directed with get very headspacey sometimes, and there's a definite transition of thought process between the heart space to the headspace. If I talk to you about statistics and suicide prevention, if I tell you 3,244 people died in Australia last year, I don't care. I'll be honest, I don't care. But if I tell you the story of the one person I know, the journey they went through, the struggles they had, the fight they had to come back with, and how they failed and what happened to their life. And then I tell you from there that 3,244 people die each year. And then I tell you what that does to the 100 people that are affected by that, and what it does to that, and how it just builds. Then it matters, because once you go headspace, you can't get the heart space. You have to tap into this first, and then take it to the other stuff, which then allows you to take on the gravitas or whatever it means to have that number. So they're the things in crafting where you have to always, to me, it's heart space before head space. And I bash on about that with every person I speak with. You must understand how to tap into someone's soul and their heart before you take it to the numbers or anything else. That's just my take on a very simplistic way of putting it together.
I think that's something that I would imagine a lot of people struggle with, because there's no formula for that. You know, we have speeches that we have formulas and evaluation for judging criteria, but you know,
most people's best speeches are their icebreakers. I'll tell you that now. Most people's best speeches in Toastmasters are their icebreakers, because they're personal. They delve into something deep and how they overcame it. And they very rarely do that again. They go into what's judged and what's needed. I think the greatest thing about the accredited speakers process is you no longer get judged. I think it's what you go, I'm done with judging.
I've seen your judging criteria.
Oh.
Nothing is
I don't know.
I just don't. Well, you don't have to fit a criterion anymore. That's my belief. You can go out and you can speak on what you want. You don't have to tick the boxes. And for me, I don't care about ticking boxes. I want to make sure I affect an audience. And I think we're all the same. You want to affect the audience, and you have to do it from what you believe comes from you. And everyone will be different.
I think the key is to be able to position things in a way that people haven't thought of before. So I know there's a speaker who goes to high schools and talks about how it's something like 7% of teenagers have experimented with drugs, and what he does is he flips it around and he goes, this is good, 93% haven't. And you know, it's being able to look at things and take a different perspective on it and put things across in a way that people go, okay, I haven't thought of it like that before. I think one of the most thrilling conversations I had after the Con in Confidence talk was, you know, and you may remember, Danielle, that the essence was, if you want to be confident, do what a confident person does. You know, it's just that simple, replicate other behaviors. And someone phoned me up and said I was in this position where I wanted to do something and I was holding myself back. And I found myself thinking, what would a confident person do? And that's the way I then went forward. And I think when you can do that for someone, you know, change their thinking, change the way that they behave as a result of the way you've positioned ideas in your talk, then that's I mean, it's not neuroscience here. It's not, you know, it's not groundbreaking, but it's reached someone. And I think that's what the judges are looking for. That's what that rather bizarre phrase means.
Thank you. Verity, is there anything that you wanted to add to that?
I think the piece that excites me is that the actual contest ballot has also changed this year, that 25% of the ballot goes to speech value to the audience. It didn't used to be like that. I think it was 15%. They're realizing that the value to the audience is far more important than body language, vocal variety, you know, use of languages. Have you given them something? And building on what Greg was saying, I always say, if you want to change someone's mind, you first have to change their heart. It's that headspace, heart space, and you do that through story, but you do that through compelling storytelling where you are reliving a moment, and when you get to the crux, there's this, you know, aha, or the moral is revealed and the audience goes, now they've got that value. Wow, that's great. I'm thinking differently. It's not the 7%, it's the 93%. That's the skill, to take an audience on a journey and give them something that they might not see coming, but when they get it, they think, thank you. That's what, and that is hard. It's very subjective. I must say, Greg, I did feel very judged. They sent us the judges' feedback. It's not, some of it was quite honest.
No, I mean, after the accredited
it's
process, I mean,
real.
once you've finished and you get your accreditation, it's like the judging's done.
Yeah, it's done. It's done. No, completely. But it's knowing that your work is being assessed, because as a professional speaker, the only judgment I get is that my clients pay me. I don't, and I mean, they often do an assessment at the end of a course, but generally for keynotes, I'm not getting feedback. The feedback is applause and did they pay me? So
And a referral.
knowing that, yeah, the referral, but knowing your speech is being looked at and you have to get 80% to pass, it's an added level of pressure. But at the same time, that's why I say don't enter this program until you have conned yourself into going, I'm confident that I'm adding value. That's the piece you have to go, I'm excited to be on the stage. I've worked hard. I deserve to be here.
And be willing to mess it up. I mean, it's just, everyone tries to be perfect, but it's just never going to happen. And you go and you make sure you're as best prepared as you can be, and you have to put it all out there on the stage and see what happens. And you'll get the critique and you may not get there. We've all been through that mix, and where you didn't make the cut, and you have to take that. I remember driving back, because I had to fly to Chicago to do it. It's on the other side of the planet for me. And I remember everyone was so supportive of me going, and then I didn't get there. And coming home, it's like, I don't need to do this anymore. I don't need to be judged by people. By the time I got to the last corner, turning home, it's right, I'm calling them, we're going back next year. And so I think we have to go through that process of this problem that we've been faced with. But then you suck it up and you go, you know what? There's value in these critiques. There's value in some of the best judgments I was given by people, and even a couple of Toastmasters, they were told off for what they said to me. And I said, no, I want you to be brutal, because I don't want the fluffy sandwich thing. Tell me if it's terrible, say it's terrible. You need to work on this. Like, tell me straight up. And so they did, and they got in some trouble for it, but they were the most valuable critiques I'd ever had. And it made me change what I did. And I think that's incredibly important stuff, because it does make you better. You have to take it as valuable input and build upon it.
Definitely. And that's why we evaluate everything that we do. Thank you very much for that. What I would like to now is just to move to some questions that we have from our audience. And in the interest of time, could I ask one of you, once I ask the question, if one of you feels very strongly about answering it, can you just pop your hand up or just start speaking, please? So the first question, do the panelists recommend any behaviors or approaches that would help in our daily lives, speeches, club, Toastmasters sessions, contests, etc., to make a good start on a path to accredited speaker?
Just start.
Just start.
Like, too many people talk a great game, and I mean, I had at our club where people like, I'm going to do a contest. Just do one. Like, you're gonna suck. So what? Get better. Come back. Get better. That's the process. But always aim to be better. It's that one thing that I know everyone here has done. We all start as neophytes. We're all no good. You talk about your own struggles, and then you come back and you make improvement, and you make improvement, and eventually you become better. But I always had a plan in my head when I started. So, I mean, if you have that, then do that. But if you just want to be a better speaker, just try and improve every time. Find something you need to work on and get it better.
Okay. So just start. Don't wait until, you've done.
The first step's just a step. That's all it is. It's just a step. It's not the step. It's a step in a whole ton of other ones you're going to fall down on.
Apparently, the book by Judy Carter, The Message of You, is a very powerful one if you're looking to go into professional speaking and looking to find your niche. That might be useful.
And that one's not bad either. This one here, stop talking, start influencing, isn't not too bad, because it goes through a bit of the neuro sort of science behind speaking and how the brain works, which isn't too bad a book on a bit of knowledge.
And if I could ask for one of our moderators, if they could put the links into the chat to Verity and Dale's book as well, not as a, as a sell point, but, we're obviously getting information from people who are experienced speakers. And I think that's important that we have access to that. The next question that we have is, how has each panelist's journey from starting speaking to being accredited did it take? So how is each panelist's journey from starting speaking to now being accredited? How long did it take?
4 years, 6 months.
Like Greg's got a short answer. I started speaking professionally in 2005 and I got accredited last year. So my maths is terrible, however many years, 20 something years or under 20 years, my maths is terrible, but it was never the plan. I was just speaking and my business evolved, and then I had an opportunity to get a really lovely acknowledgement of what I do.
30 years.
Okay, so we're not going to listen to GVB.
Say again?
We're not going to listen to you in terms of 6 months, but that's something that was the
4
That
years,
was 4
6 months.
years, 6 months. My day of starting was end of 2014 to getting my accreditation was 4 years, 6 months.
That's amazing.
And just because I've always been single-minded. If you look at my stupid office, everything's single-minded. I go one thing and I want to be the best at what I do, and I'll finish that and then take all those skill sets and put it into the next thing and make that the best thing. And then I'll take that and move it into the next thing. And it's just that single-mindedness. And I'm not smart and nothing like that. Just a big dumb animal that picks something and goes at it. And I'll learn all the mistakes on the way and how to overcome them on the way. And then I'll get better and better and better with that promise that I will improve. And I'll finish it and try and become everything I've tried to be world level. And then I'll finish that. And when I get exhausted in the gut, I go, you know what? I think I'm done here. Next thing. So when I won the world championship in pistol shooting 2014, accredited speaking.
Okay, nothing wrong with being a big dumb animal. I can relate to that.
I think single-minded is handy. Sometimes I think smart people overthink things and they talk themselves out before they start.
Yep, I can agree with that. We have one last question, and that is, what is the next part of your skill set you are looking to work on using Toastmasters? Greg, you went on, we couldn't hear you then.
I whispered Dale.
I'm self-editing, yeah. The next thing that I'm hoping to get from Toastmasters, I think I would love to mentor a couple people through the AS program. I would love to help some other people reach their goals. And the rest of the time, just enjoy being a Toastmaster, enjoy my family.
Wonderful. With the time that we have left, Verity or Dale, is there anything that you would like to say about the process of becoming an accredited speaker, or any bits of advice apart from just start that we heard from Greg that our audience can take away with them today?
I can maybe just say, when you decide to get on the path of following this, the actual accredited speaker community of accredited speakers is incredible. It is so supportive. And the difference between this and anything else you do in Toastmasters, like competing, is you're not competing with other people that are pursuing this designation. So you get welcomed in. It's just support there to help you get the most out of the process. You have 3 attempts at level 2 to get it. So it's not one strike and you're out. And just know that you're stepping into a community of people who want you to get it, and they will help you as much as they can to help you achieve it.
And if you are new to professional speaking, I would say that some of the things that are worth working on early and properly are collecting testimonials, get your processes sorted out as tightly as possible, be responsive, be really diligent in nurturing your relationships with people who are going to give you speaking opportunities, follow up, get the feedback, get the testimonials, get video, get all of that regularly. And one of the hardest things for me in going for the accredited speaker was getting video that met the criteria. So if you can get into the habit of recording as much as you can, then you should ideally be at a point where you can just use one of your videos. But yeah, if you work on all those things early and make that a habit and part of your professionalism, then I think things will work out a lot faster and a lot more easily for you.
Okay, so make a start, make your connections, and work from there.
And understand your lane, understand what you're going to speak on, and become the subject matter expert above all in that position.
And give it everything you've got.
Yeah.
Thank you all for joining tonight, and Verity, I know for you it's actually during the day. And thank you so much for sharing your experiences. I really appreciate that you've come on here and you can do that. You didn't have to give your time. And thank you so much for giving advice to other people who do want to pursue this path, and also seeing how we can start from struggling with whatever public speaking fears that we have, but move to hopefully where you are today. So thank you very much again. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for moderating so
Thank
beautifully,
you.
Danielle.
Beautiful
Pleasure.
job.
Thank you. It was
Awesome.
all in the stalking.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Good night, everyone. Or good morning.
Just good.